Your perfectionism is sabotaging your goals, your well-being, and your entire life. But today we are getting rid of it, because thanks to this video you will finally ditch perfectionism and start living the life that you want. I used to think that perfectionism was my superpower, until I realized that it was actually preventing me from taking action towards my goals. Research shows that perfectionism actually impacts people's performance, because as we will see, perfect is not the enemy of good, is actually the enemy of excellence. If you consider yourself to be a perfectionist, then you might actually be self-sabotaging. But fear no more, because today I will share with you evidence-based ways to get rid of your perfectionism that helped me get rid of mine. But first, if you're new here, hi, my name is Bri, I'm a pre-qualified psychologist, and in this channel we're all about using psychology and science backed up tools to improve our life, our well-being, and support our self-development. So if that is something you want to do, you should stick around and subscribe. Now, the first thing that we need to do is to actually understand whether we are perfectionists. And some signs that are common to all perfectionists are having trouble meeting your own standard, or feeling frustrated, sad, anxious, angry if you're not able to meet those standards, if you have fear of failure, or if you find yourself overworking or even procrastinating. Actually, there are two types of perfectionism. The first type is self-oriented. So this is when you project your perfectionism towards yourself. So you have high standards for yourself and only for yourself. And then there is other directed perfectionism, which is basically when you have high expectations for other people. Now, it's not that you have to be one or the other. It can be that someone that is a perfectionist can both be a self-oriented and an other directed perfectionist. Now, why should you even get rid of your perfectionism? And the answer is that perfectionism is actually preventing you striving for excellence. In fact, perfectionists tend to set high standards for themselves and become overly preoccupied with their goals that often are unrealistically ambitious. And as a result, they can become harshly self-critical. On the other side, excellence means striving towards high but yet realistic standards in a determined yet flexible way. So at the end of the day, we should all be striving for excellence rather than perfection. According to a study conducted by the University of Ottawa, excellence was actually highly correlated with academic improvement and future achievements, but also to higher life satisfaction, lower depression, and greater progression towards life's goals. On the other hand, perfectionism was linked to a decline in achievement. That is because people that strive for excellence invest less time and effort but achieve the same or even greater results than the people that strive for perfection. Another reason why you should get rid of your perfectionism is that your perfectionism, whether this is self or other oriented, could be damaging others as well. On one hand, it might be difficult for someone to be close to a person that is constantly self-critical and extremely judgmental towards oneself. But at the same time, perfectionists usually direct their own perfectionism also towards others. So it may be impossible for those around them to meet their high and unachievable standards. Also, perfectionism is correlated with workaholism, which might lead your work to come in the way of your health and happiness, and obviously lead to burnout. In fact, studies show that perfectionism is very much linked with mental health conditions such as anxiety, depression, but also to a general dissatisfaction and unhappiness towards one's life. Now that we know all of this, how do we actually get rid of perfectionism? Well, I have 5 steps for you. And step 1 is to try to understand where it comes from. Of course, none of us is born a perfectionist, so we need to understand where our perfectionist tendencies come from. For many people, perfectionism has its roots in childhood. Someone that had parents with extremely high standards, or that maybe showed love only when the child achieved something or was good at something, may grow up to feel like they're not enough. hence projecting perfectionist standards to themselves as well. But also, perfectionism could be a consequence of our society that is extremely focused on toxic productivity and perfection. In a culture that is so based on competition, for some people, perfectionism may be inevitable. Okay, now that we have understood where your perfectionism comes from, the second step is think about the big picture. And the idea is, when you're working on a project and you're focusing all of your attention on not making mistakes and delivering a perfect project, think about what the actual consequences will be of your mistake if you were to make one. For example, let's say you send this piece of work to your boss and this piece of work has got some mistakes in it. Ask yourself, will this matter in 10 minutes? Well, maybe yeah, because your boss may come back to you and say, well, actually you made these mistakes, and you might be feeling very bad, you might be feeling overly critical of yourself. So yeah, probably it might still matter in 10 minutes. But then ask yourself, will this matter in 10 weeks? And probably, maybe you may be still thinking about it, but thinking about it doesn't make you feel as bad as when you first made that mistake. And finally, ask yourself, will this matter in 10 years? And most likely, for most things that we have to go through in our everyday life, the answer is no, it won't matter in 10 years. You won't even remember about this mistake that you made in 10 years. So every time you get very, very worried about making mistakes, start thinking in this way and think about the big picture, and you will realize that your mistake won't actually matter. But also, don't only think about the consequence of your mistake. Think about the cost of your perfectionism. If on one side your mistake could have as a result an disappointed email from your boss, what would be the cost of, for example, delaying that piece of work? So not sending it on time, maybe in a way that will shift all of your deadlines. What would be the consequence of your boss perception of you if you keep sending your works late because you are focusing too much on getting them perfect? At the end of the day, your perfectionism has many more costs than your mistakes. Remember that you can learn from mistakes, but you can't learn from inaction. Step number 3 is make the damn mistakes. As a perfectionist, you might feel like you are unable to make any progress if you see even the slightest chance of failure ahead of you. And an inability to accept any kind of mistake can lead to a lot of self-criticism, but also it will make you unable to actually take actions towards your goals. So for this step, we are going to do what in psychology we call behavioral experiments. A behavioral experiment is a therapeutic method designed to help a client see the real impact of a behavior they might be afraid of. So in this case, if you are a perfectionist and you are afraid of making mistakes, you are going to make mistakes, and you're gonna make a lot of them. And then you're gonna send those mistakes to your boss to see what the actual reaction will be. More often than not, the reaction won't be even slightly as you had imagined. Because let's be honest, if you send to your boss a project with a lot of mistakes in it, the worst thing that can happen is that he comes back to you and says, please, could you redo this and this, because I noticed that there are some mistakes in it. This is exactly what I did with my YouTube channel. As I said, I was a perfectionist and I was so scared of sending anything that I didn't consider to be perfect. And this perfectionism also stopped me for a long time to open a YouTube channel. I was just afraid of wanting to have the right gear, or wanting to deliver the perfect content. And then I started posting on YouTube, and if you see my early video, they are bad. The audio is bad. You can see that I am not as confident as I am now in front of a camera, even though I still have a lot to learn. But I had to go through the process of posting those low quality videos in order to get rid of my perfectionism. And doing that has opened for me the opportunity of starting YouTube. And yes, I'm only starting and the progress are slow at the moment. But I am confident that if I keep doing this, I will get better at this, and eventually I will see major improvements all of the sudden. And if we go back to thinking about the cost of inaction, if I think about what would have happened if I had not opened this YouTube channel, I am actually very sad, because it would be a life where I haven't learned a lot of the skills that I've learned. I would not have become this confident, and also I would have never taken this leap that who knows where it's going to lead me. So starting to do work, even if that is mediocre or it doesn't reach your standards, is very effective in order for you to get rid of your perfectionism and start taking action. Because taking action is the only way that you can achieve excellence. If you don't believe me, believe science, because an experiment by scientists called Rudden tested 76 undergraduate women who described themselves as perfectionists. And they found out that going through the process of making intentional mistakes to see what the outcome will be lowered not only the participants' concerns about making mistakes, but it also reduced their perfectionism overall. And the great news is the results were not even slow, like these women's perfectionism reduced very quickly. So once you start taking action, your perfectionism will start reducing almost immediately. Step 4 is track your progresses, because what get measured get managed. Try and do a weekly review where you ask yourself, was there anything that I avoided doing this week due to a fear of making mistakes? Were there any times where my perfectionism wasn't worth it? Were there any times where I took action even if the outcome was not that certain and I ended up making progresses? You could also think about having a log where you write down all of the actions that you take, define your perfectionism and where that action has led you. You will find out that most of these actions will lead you towards progresses rather than step backs. And finally, step 5 is keep working on it, because it is a constant journey. If you grow up with perfectionist tendencies, especially if these have very solid ingrained roots, it won't be necessarily easy to get rid of your perfectionism. And also, if you stop working towards to it, you might lose all of your progress and make a step back. So what you want is remind yourself that perfect is the enemy of excellent, and that you need to keep fighting your perfectionism in order to be able to achieve your goals and have the life that you want. And this brings us to the end of the video. I really hope you enjoyed it and found it helpful. Let me know in the comments whether you are a perfectionist and what are you doing to fight your perfectionist tendencies. If you like this video, you might also want to leave a thumbs up, as it really helps the algorithm and it might help me achieving my goals of getting to 1000 subscribers by the end of the year. So thank you very much if you do that. If you want to support my channel, you can do so by buying me a coffee through the link that you will find in the description box below, or you can purchase my planner on Etsy. You will also find those in the description box. If you like this video, you might also like my video on how to truly love yourself. So I will see you over there, or I will see you in the next video. Bye!